Just test, make sure that it shows up on Facebook. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to what I believe will be an enchanting hour of rhymes and tales presented by the California chapter of Yuganugoonj. But first things first, let me tell you a little bit about Yuganugoonj. Yuganugoonj is a registered publishing organization and literature and cultural community, has garnered over 10,000 members from both within India and abroad. This group is dedicated to promoting Hindi, Urdu, and English literature and bringing lesser known creative artists to the fore. The community has state coordinators in various states within the country and abroad, within India and abroad. Its central committee comprises of four main representatives and a couple of principal advisors. The founder of the community is Nivedita Chakravarti, who I had the pleasure of meeting when she was in California earlier this year. She is based in Gurugram. Bhupendra Tiku, who serves as the global planner, Prabha Bhargav, who represents Yuganugoonj globally, and Nivedita Srivastav, she is the national head for India. So there are state heads, within India as well as abroad, and they regularly conduct offline and online programs in their respective states and their cities. Yuganugoonj invites talents from every corner, both domestically and internationally, like I mentioned before, and tirelessly works towards the propagation and promotion of literature, culture, and social awareness for intellectual development. Yuganugoonj has its own publication and has published numerous books in Hindi, English, and children's literature. Yuganugoonj also promotes books published by Yuganugoonj Publications, conducts interviews with the authors, and organizes online launches. Other than this, a paid promotion facility is also available for books published by other publishing houses as well. Our California state head is Manju Bhargav, and I was just recently appointed as the state event coordinator and have been bringing some local artists to these events, both offline and online this year. Today's event is titled Rhymes and Tales, and as you can tell from that, we have we are featuring four amazing writers and poets that I've had the pleasure of getting to know and befriend over several years. But before I introduce all these four poets and writers today, I want to share a poem that I wrote specifically for this event and as a tribute, as an ode to all the writers and poets around the world. And it is titled The Power of the Written Word. So here goes. In ink and quill, or even digitized, a world unfolds, often synthesized. From ancient scrolls to blogs of the day, their written word will show us the way. To untrodden paths which none have seen, through realms of thought, both deep and keen, a whisper aloud or a silent shout to tell the tales of hope and doubt. Binding the past with threads of lore, unlocking the mind, opening the door. A gentle stroke, yet firm in might, it pierces the dark and ignites the light. These letters etched, or rhymes that sing, may stir a heart, or laughter they'll bring. Worthy of their proverbial weight in gold, will ever lift our souls but never get old. Respect these wizards of words, I say. Spare them a few moments of your day. Listen with your hearts so you remain stirred through the power of their written word. So that was a little something to kind of kick things off here. Um, and with that said, I want to introduce our first poet and our storyteller today, Meera Rao. Meera Rao is a California based writer who loves words in all shapes and fonts. She writes fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and has won awards for her creative nonfiction and poetry. Her poetry is largely inspired by nature and climate change, and you're going to see a glimpse of that here today. She is, on social media, as on Instagram. It'll be hard to spell that out here, but for those who are interested, we'll definitely, share some of that information separately. She's a dear friend and a co-theater enthusiast, and we've had many stimulating discussions on varied topics over the years. So, without much ado, here I would like to invite Mira to share some of her work with us. Mira, you can come off mute.
Thank you, Pratish, and thank you, Yuganugoonj. I wanted to say what a wonderful way to kick off the presentation, Pratish. Perfect poem. Thank you for that. Today, I will be sharing four poems, and two of them at the end are shorter ones, Japanese short form poetry. I want to start with my poem called Earthbound. Just a tiny bit of background. This poem was inspired by a 100-day arduous motorcycle journey undertaken by Sadhguru, India's spiritual leader and climate champion who started the hashtag Save Soil movement. To raise awareness of the soil crisis, he rode across 27 countries and garnered the support of world leaders to prevent soil from desertification and to protect all the microbes that make growing anything possible. Earthbound was written to honor Mother Earth and the soil and the farmers who feed us. Earthbound. Dream big, they say. Stretch your limbs up high. Make your arms longer than rocket trails spanning the blue. Stand tall. Now reach higher. Extend all your digit. Grab the stars, the sky's the limit. Scrawl your signature on it. So my dream is daring, in that I dream small. I dare to dream tiny. I dare to dream dirty. Overall, my dreams are down to earth, a bit more gritty. My issues are of the minuscule, the invisible, about all the overlooked, a call to heed the conveniently ignored. I dream of a world that's green, a world free of greed, where we give trophies to trees and superhero capes to bees, because pollinators are the bees' knees indeed. Without them, ours will buckle. The real sting comes if they die. I dream of saving the soil, this dirty blessing, and the microbes, these tiny, not the farmer kings. In my dream, we honor the farmer's toil and protect the earth because it all boils down to her, our superstar. So, hashtag save soil. I dream of a world where we give earth some space to recover and give space a break from what we probing invaders hope to discover until we get our act together. Because missions to Mars and moon landings don't fill gaping bellies. And you see, unless every stomach is full, lofty dreams mean nothing. My second poem is entitled Infestation, Notes of and During COVID. Infestation. How are you? She beams over a Zoom call. Her happy face has popped into my flat, misshapen world, a whole world, in fact, flattened, toppled by what the eye cannot see, nor the mind perceive. We waited long weeks to catch up between chaotic, nonsensical, discombobulated lives. I've so longed for this heart to heart. I want to confide, I've had it with hubby. We fight every day over everything. We bicker over who'll spray the steering wheel, who'll do the groceries, who'll wash the veggies, who'll make dinner, Who'll sanitize the countertops, wipe down the doorknobs? Which news is fake? Which is true? Argue the what ifs and the choices between the virus and depression. We butt heads over inviting friends and family for sanity's sake, or would that be like inviting death? Stalemate. I want a divorce. I want to scream to my friend, but my walls have a million ears these days. They're here, they're there, they're everywhere. And hubby has selective hearing. He's deaf when I yell, "Have you washed your hands?" But his ears are keen when I whisper to my sister, his mother refused the vaccine. I have no space. They're here, all of them, all the time. I trip over them. They're all over the place, behind every wall, like termites. I can hear them through paper thin barriers on Zoom calls, know their footfalls, quick, bored, heavy, angry, sneaky. I want to cry. I lost one, two, three, six, seven family members in the Delta wave, but how can I count when others have lost more and world numbers mount each day, accounting for heaps of millions? I fear no one's taking this seriously. It will not be over by Easter nor another year. I'm tired of reminding them to wash before they eat, not touch their faces, carry their masks, their sanitizers. Do they have their N95s handy? I caught him red handed the other day, coming in, not washing his hands. I take him to task. Where have you been? Did you wear your mask? Whom have you seen? I'm afraid he will break the safety net I've so painstakingly made. I'm afraid he'll kill us all. It's not sustainable, this constant hand washing, this masking, this being a sentinel, these inquiries, these inquisitions. I'm afraid I can't keep up with being a watchdog, this hated dictator. I'm afraid I'll kill us all. I want to confess this and more to my waiting friend, but they're all around me, teeming. They're all here. They're all here with me, my team of termites. Under the same roof, we're together. We are together. Gulping a lump, I return to my friend at the other end and beam back my answer. I am just fine. How are you? So my third poem is called Essence. It's a tanka, a Japanese short form poetry. It's only 5 lines, so I'll repeat it. Essence. No friends on Facebook. No followers on Instagram. No likes, no shares. Your beauty's platform, pine needles. For whom do you bloom, wild rose? No friends on Facebook, no followers on Instagram, no likes, no shares. Your beauty's platform, pine needles. For whom do you bloom, wild rose? And the very last one is a haiku, 3 lines, and here goes. All that water, yet oceans cannot quench a thirst like a drop of rain. All that water, yet oceans cannot quench a thirst like a drop of rain. Thank you.
That was beautiful, Mira. That was wonderful. We're spellbound. I don't know if you've been following any of the comments here that have been coming in as you were beautifully, reciting all your work here. Things like beautiful rendition, beautiful words, So is the title. Beautiful expression, Mira. Deepika Kothari actually says it as if I'm in the theater listening to Shakespearean actors. So incredible. Great stuff, Mira. And so, by the way, I think Mira, the poem on soil was quite incredible. I mean, I think it's and very actionable too in terms of you for those of us who are probably not as familiar with what it takes, right? I think you had some good suggestions there, which really opened our eyes, brought us some awareness in that area space. So thank you so much for that. And then even what you went through, with your musings on around COVID, I think a lot of us can relate to that because it wasn't easy for anybody, and it was definitely a nerve-wracking time for everyone, and we were all we went through a lot of strife. All of us did. We all had personal losses, and it was just really incredible time, and I think it definitely for the poets and the writers out there. I think in some ways it inspired a lot of people to write some very insightful and thoughtful pieces. So incredible stuff there. Thanks so much, Mira. I am going to move to our next presenter here. Our next artist is Reena Kapoor. She's actually already been featured in an earlier event this year. Reena has been a techie for about 25 years. She lives here in the Bay Area as well. She's a poet, a playwright, and a storyteller. Work has appeared in several literary journals and anthologies. She can be found at her blog. It's called Arrivals and Departures substack.com. Reena and I presented at an online recital during COVID times and have been interacting since. We've never met in person, but aspire to one day. Reena, I would love to have you come off mute and share some of your work with us.
Hi, Pratish. My sound is okay? You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you
Excellent.
fine. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Pratish and Yuganugoonj, for inviting me and inviting me back. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm going to be reading a few poems as well as a couple of my micro stories. So let me start off with a poem that's called Heart's Hometown. And this is inspired by the fact that I grew up as an army kid in India, where I spent all my years up to my undergraduate degree in college. And so I've lived in many, many homes. In fact, the home I now live in is perhaps the home I've lived in the longest. So anyway, the title of the poem is Heart's Hometown. I remember all the houses I've lived, dreamt, and dreaded in. New towns and tongues, new schools and norms. Friendships trailed in suspension. As I scrounged for new, fresh allies emerged, fortifications vaporized. I don't remember being afraid, just peering into new spaces of unfamiliar multitudes. I don't remember being disoriented, just repeatedly supplying. Where are you from? I don't remember sorrow at leaving, just gathering antidotes for stings of refusals ahead. I don't remember fearing new places, just discovering repeatedly how to pretend belong. Who's to answer for how I felt? Those who primed such journeys couldn't, for I looked behind their backs at their tied hands. So I soothed the gritted girl, built her forts without gates, showed her how to live in bated breath for new displacements. Thank you. And now I'm going to read one of my micro stories. These are stories I write. These are 100-word stories, and they're exactly 100 words, not 99, not 101. So this one actually is a true story. It's called For the Living. In 1946, my grandmother became a young widow. Her husband fell from a rooftop and died. Their son, my uncle, who witnessed the incident, went into deep shock. Per tradition in northwestern India at the time, Rudalis arrived at the house to mourn. Rudalis were professional women mourners whose job was to help those grieving embody, experience, and process their grief. They did this by weeping openly, helping the family do the same. My grandmother shocked everyone by defying tradition. She turned the women away. When questioned, she said, "I must attend to my son's suffering first. I'll mourn later." So that was called For the Living. My next item is a poem. It's called Speed. And it occurred to me as I'm very much in middle age, and a lot of thoughts of mortality come by and what has your life amounted to and all of that. Speed. Perhaps we try to fill it all up, to have markers showing we really were here. Little intense moments we hurried through, hoping speed, sheer grit will burn through the fear. Ground in our steps in a fool's certain march, leaving shallow footprints we smugly displayed. Even as we turned, hurried into new roads, winds blew, time flooded in, faded them away. Our breathless jottings of all that we saw, our mad recounting of lists we crossed off, miles we covered, turned to see if we missed any, marking meaningless baubles, petty wars. But as we reached our maturing hour, if we were lucky, our hands were warm. Only such loves that sustained with us had kept pace, walked steadily along. They said, "You'll not know how happy you turned out to be." And as I sit listening to the chimes that hum with me, I marked the uncounted, great loves, kind forgivers, steady rocks, true mirrors. No other counter nor currency could this life be measured in. Thank you so much. And here's another 100-word story. Again, it's 100 words exactly. And so you kind of have to pay attention. It's called Mango Bonds. This is a piece of fiction. Mango Bonds. Summer's end. We're at the train station bidding my uncle's family goodbye. The train starts pulling out. My cousin Sunil yells to me, "I stole the mangoes." The next day, I write him, demanding my share of the money my mother made us kids cough up for the complaining mango seller. I never hear back from Sunil. Next time I see Sunil is 2 decades later. He drives 300 miles to help me move out, while my soon-to-be ex-husband seethes in a corner. As we drive out, Sunil declares, "Even on the mangoes now." I laugh out loud, first time in years. And my next poem is again a very personal one. It is based on a true incident also. It's about a ring that I lost. And I bought it in one country, lost it in another, and it left some interesting thoughts. Lost and found. It was but a ring among many I possess. Another one, bought in foreign climes, Clean rows of shiny stones I surrendered to, while you made me believe it should be mine. Istanbul harem ring had me seduced. Your claim, perfect for my harem, only endeared it more. Acquired and worn with happy aplomb, I grew to love it each wear some more. And then on this trip, it went missing from me. Frantic and fretting, spent precious minutes looking and lost. Replaying when I put it, where and why. Nothing, my barren finger, lonely, unadorned in protest. And then, after a day, sunshine pierced through. A reverie on how it will return unannounced again. When I'm an old woman and it's a long forgotten loss, it will be found nestling in folds of paper, an old pocket someday. I will exclaim and laugh out loud to you. I'll say, remember how I fretted in Hanoi? You'll nod your head and repeat it was meant to be mine. That which goes missing from view isn't lost, like love. I'll get on the phone and call our darling M. My discovery revealed. Will she recall how she comforted me? I'll tell her, it's yours, my sweet. A remembrance for how you played mom. Ah, such treasures we found, even when we lost on our journeys.
Wonderful. That is so good.
Thank
Fantastic.
you.
Rita, did you have any more?
I just have one last 100 word, but I can skip it if
No,
I'm.
no, no. We have the time, so go ahead.
Okay. So last 100 word story. It's a piece of fiction again. It's called Fish Nor Fowl. The fowl is spelled as Foul, not Fowl. So it's fish nor fowl. Ganesh, a poor fisherman, married young Valki. One day, Valki inadvertently burnt down their whole week's firewood. Ganesh fumed. His mother beat Valki. Valki walked into the sea and was lost forever. Fishing got harder, rendering Ganesh in peril of losing his boat to the moneylender. One day in treacherous seas, a porpoise appeared, pushing Ganesh's boat to safety. Then Ganesh found Valki's gold Mangal Sutra in his fishing nets. That could clear his debts. Ganesh cried regretfully. A legend arose in the village that women who left this life lived under sea, continuing to look out for those they'd once loved. Thank you. That's all for me today.
Beautiful.
Thank you
Very
so
nice.
much.
Rina, thank you so much. That was quite a lot of good, great content there, and insightful, thought-provoking. There were some personal stories in there, which is pretty incredible. So again, a lot of comments out there. Veena Kumar says, "Wow, great experiences of a wanderer, army. Army people's children." She probably identifies. Um,
Thank you.
Deepika Kotari, "O Time of Rudalis." Beautiful story, Rina G.
Thank you.
Um, Salute to your grandmom. That's right. The grandmother must be a brave woman. Beautifully narrated. Very nice, good one. So again, great comments out there for you, Rina. Thank you so much for presenting. It's really
Thank you,
good.
everyone. Thank you,
Yeah,
Pratish.
yeah. All right. Our next artist is Savita Krishnamurthy. She lives in Seattle. She's an art historian and a cultural critic who reviews literary and artistic works in the Pacific Northwest for the International Examiner in Seattle. Her writing publications include The Times of India, Feminist Media Histories at University of California Press, Courageous Creativity and Black Embodiment Studio Journal. She is the author of Mapping Home, which is a collection of poems that invites the readers to appreciate the magic of life's most ordinary moments. She has no qualms in admitting that her beloved dog Copper rules the house, and her work online is available at savvykrish.com. I believe Savvy, I think Copper probably walked into the room a few minutes ago. Is that why the door, yeah, opened up?
Yes,
Okay.
I apologize. If you give me a minute, I will close the door. He had to see what was going on. Just 1 minute.
No, no worries. We're okay with it. So Savi and I have known each other for over a couple of decades now. I went to high school with her husband, but she and I can claim more interests in common than I with her husband now. So Savi, we want you to come off mute here and share with us some of your work.
I think I'm not. Thank you, Pratish. Good morning, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you're joining us from. Thank you for being here today. Thank you to Yuganugoonj and Pratish for inviting me to be a part of Rhymes and Tales. And it's my pleasure and an honor to share my work with you and to be a witness to the writings of Meera, Reena, and Sajid. I'm going to be sharing 4 works of mine today. Um, the first poem is something that I've often thought about. Do houses have personalities? And this poem speaks to that question. The house sits on top of the hill in a cul-de-sac. Its porch light is never on, even on the darkest nights. Inky ebony nights, where the soggy sky is brushed with broad strokes, languid layers in shades of onyx and obsidian. It is especially then that it looks most forlorn, its cape of loneliness wrapped tightly around its voluminous girth, as if to keep the chill of isolation at bay. The windows wear a hopeful hat of expectancy, their eyes widened in anticipation, waiting for you to come and say, "Hello, would you like some company? We can sit together in this silken silence and watch the world go by." The pearl grey house is elegant, regal, like a grand old matriarch, reposing with an air of arrogance, lips pursed in slight disapproval. The dormers atop the sloping roof, looking down at the world from their lofty perch. The perfect house, with its perfectly pruned, preening, posturing roses, and its immaculate manicured lawns. Hedges trimmed with an almost military precision. Almost, because some edges are slightly askew, folded in a furrowed frown. The small gap between them, in the shape of a yawn, is ready to yell, "Keep off the grass!" And then there's this house, where a bicycle is hastily flung near the front door. Colorful ribbons on the handlebars, squished in surrender. It's as if the rider was fleeing from something terrible. Perhaps wanted to escape the biting cold, get warm in its cozy interior, and devour the delicious smells that teasingly tantalize. Or maybe they just needed to use the loo. This house, with its messy, overgrown gardens and children's toys scattered all over the yard, is my favorite kind, where white ghosts dance and gargantuan black spiders stretch lazily in gossamer cobwebs. Halloween decorations cling to the shadows. It's getting close to Christmas. You know this is the fun house, the one that hosts the kids' end of season soccer celebrations, ladies' luncheons and book clubs, neighborhood barbecues and summer pool parties, overflowing with laughter, music, food, and love. A heart that is bigger than itself. I am an outsider looking in, basking vicariously in its warmth. It dawns on me that this is a home, This is home. There's been some life changes that have occurred over the past few months in our at home. My son left for university in late August of this year. He's a freshman in college, and my husband and I are newly minted empty nesters. And I wrote this piece as a reflection of how I am processing this change. I am at my desk and gaze out the window. I observe the maple tree beginning to turn a fiery orange. It is still a few weeks away from showing off in all its blazing fall glory. In this moment of quiet contemplation, I wonder why my heart feels like an eggshell. Is it sadness? Or if perhaps the heartache is for the passing of a time in our lives that will never come back. For the past 18 years, we've been following a familiar cadence. But now everything is changing, and a new rhythm of life is taking shape. Maybe this shape of shifting life patterns is what makes my heart fragile. This is a short piece. This is for my father, and it's about my father. He was a voracious reader and a prolific writer, and I get my love of words from him. And I can just show you this. This is, if you can see, this is a picture of him that is on my desk. It's always next to me when I write, and I feel his presence, and this is how I remember him. Memories rest undisturbed within the pages yellowing with age, creased and crinkled. They remind me of my father's hands, also wrinkled and weathered with the patina of a lifetime. The skin stretched over the knuckles to an almost papery thin, fragile texture, much like the pages themselves. And the last piece I'm going to read is called Gratitude. This I wrote it during COVID, and it has echoes of what Meera recounted in her poem earlier this morning. And this was written during COVID, but I think the sentiment and the place that it comes from is applicable at any time and anywhere, in any space. Gratitude. The earth took a deep cleansing breath and let out a grateful sigh, peeling off the layers of trauma, of years of abuse and neglect, mapped on the skin of her hands, in the bones of her mountains, and the undulations of her hills, in the dimples of her valleys, and in the silken depths of her oceans. This collective trauma that is transcending borders and boundaries, cultures and communities, politics and philosophies. The bees are finally back, dancing in the dappled sunlight that pours over the blueberry bush like molten amber honey. The straggling weeds are deliriously charting merry new paths in my garden, where the dog scampers happily, blissfully oblivious to social distancing, 6 feet apart, shelter in place, flattening the curve, endemic versus pandemic, our new vocabulary, a layered lexicon of a multiplicity of meanings. The walks outside have never been more meaningful. The gentle breeze never been so calming. The children's chatter more uplifting. Strangers' smiles more welcoming. I learned the myriad ways that eyes can smile, even through makeshift masks. My positionality is in that nebulous space, in the intersections of gratitude and privilege. As I recalibrate and unmask discomfort. My heart is now getting used to a new normal. And that was it for me. Thank you so much for listening, for all of you for being here, and thank you, Pratish and Yuganugoonj again for inviting me.
Absolutely, Savita, that was wonderful. Fortunately, I've had a chance to look at some of this up close. When Savita does share her poetry and prose with me, but it's incredible to have you present these. By the way, again, Savita, a lot of great comments out there. Vivid description, beautiful picturization of the house. There was emptiness syndrome is so common, but definitely painful. Very relatable experiences during the pandemic. And yes, there was a lot in common with what Mira was talking about as well. And in fact, it touched a little bit into the soil space as well with the bees and all of that coming out, right, which was great. Um, Poetry more like a painting, beautifully expressed, brilliant expression. So a lot of really great comments
Thank
out
you.
there. Savita, great stuff there. All right, now we're going to move on to our last artist, last but not the least, by any chance. Sajid Dalvi is based in Chicago, where he works as a software engineer. He enjoys reading, writing, and drawing cartoons, so he's quite a sketch artist. And he did a lot of these even while he was at school, and that's when we had met. And he would be sketching a lot of our teachers, through the school time. So, which has always been a great journey for us. He's written a couple of online plays and recently co-authored and published a book called Short Stories. It's a collection of photographs, poems, and short stories. He's has done that with some school friends, and it is available on Amazon. I'll share the link on social media here shortly. Sajid and I have known each other since our school days in Pune, and we've during the pandemic have written plays together, and currently are working on a screenplay which will hopefully see the light of day sometime once we finish arguing and we get to more agreeing on how to end the plot. But hey, with that said, Sajid, please share with us at least one of your short stories. If we have time, maybe another as well. Okay.
Um, yeah, sure. It's interesting. Pratish and I are here in Dallas, and we have 12 or 15 of our friends from school joining us. And so the story that I've selected is basically shameless nostalgia in that spirit. The name of the story is The Compass Box. The books were all covered with brown paper, creased perfectly at the sides, with perfectly pointy corners. It had taken a few hours, but it was satisfying work, measuring and cutting and folding and pasting. "Ma, where is my school bag?" he shouted out. "It's drying out on the balcony. Open your eyes," his mother yelled back. He had really wanted a new bag this year. The glossy, colorful plastic ones with the foam straps. But his mother had said they were too expensive, and they would probably lose their shine and rip in a few months. So it was back to this old canvas bag, bought at the military surplus store near Kolsa Gully. It had a few holes, small ones, and the strap buckles were getting a bit rusty. But it was all right. He liked its feel, its smell, its familiarity. He carefully stacked his books, the small ones up front, the larger ones behind, in neat rows, and soon his bag was bulging at its seams. "Ma, where did you keep my pencil case?" He heard a loud crash in the kitchen, like a bunch of pots had tumbled down from the shelves. "Never mind, I'll find it." He hadn't looked for nor needed his pencil case all summer, but there it was in the corner desk with a solid film of dust lining it. He picked it up gently and walked gingerly to the window, took a deep breath, and let out a huge puff to blow the dust away. It blew right off the case and straight back into his face, sending him into a spasm of sneezes that took a few minutes to subside. He opened the case and it looked fine. A couple of pencils, his silver sharpener, a shaving blade, two halves of an eraser, a wooden ruler chipped at the edges, and his trusted hero fountain pen. The ink seemed to have dried on the nib, and the pen didn't write so well, so he went to the sink and washed it, using the shaving blade to carefully clean the crud near the nib. He pressed the dropper and dipped the pen into the ink bottle and watched the ink gush into the little tube attached to the pen. He wrote his name on a piece of paper in terrible cursive writing and smiled as the ink flowed out of the pen smoothly and consistently. Good as new, he thought. He put the pen back in the case and closed it shut. Shit, he thought. Shit, geometry. I have geometry this year. I need those geometry thingies, the pokey pointer stuff and the circle drawing stuff and the weird shaped rulers he had seen some of the older kids used. A compass box, he remembered. That's what I need, a compass box. Ma, he yelled. It was almost 7:30 in the evening by the time the rickshaw dropped him off near the Bata store on Main Street. Walking briskly towards Shivaji Market, he watched in panic as many of the stores started to shut down. They turned at the lane with the flower shop, which although closed for the day still smelled like jasmine and marigold. They passed by the Karachiwala sweet shop. Ma, suttar feni? He asked. His mother gave him one of those deadly looks that only mothers could give. What was he thinking? There were two stationery stores right next to each other, and luckily both were open. What was not so fortunate was that they were both crammed with people that made going inside almost impossible. One day before school opens, this idiot remembers. One day, his mother scowled. You go there, she said, pushing him into the crowd in front of the popular bookstore, and she walked into the neighboring Hindustan bookstore. He tried to squeeze his way through the bulging bellies and sweaty armpits and smelly buttocks, and eventually, gasping for breath, reached the counter and shouted out, "Compass box! I want a compass box!" "Sold out," the man behind the counter replied. "What do you mean sold out? I just need one. You don't even have one in the store?" "Sold out," the man replied dismissively. He cursed. It was a vulgar curse. It was a curse not suitable for a young child. He thought he had said those cuss words to himself. But the sudden silence that immediately engulfed the store made him aware that those words had actually come out, loudly and clearly. The store owner gave him a stern look, as did many of the other grown-ups next to him. The crowd made way for him as he walked out of the store. His mother was outside, waiting. Had she heard him? Of course she had. The shame, the horror, the disappointment. He had tears in his eyes. She shook her head and gave him a giant hug. He fell asleep in her lap on the ride back home. He dreaded going to school the next morning. No compass box. What would the teacher say? She'd be disappointed for sure. What an impression to make on the very first day. He opened up his school bag. There, right on top, was a compass box. It wasn't a new one, but it had everything in it. Was it his brother's? Maybe his dad had one. Maybe his mother borrowed it from one of the neighbors. When he got back home that evening, he rushed into his mother's arms. "Thank you," he said. "Come now," she replied. "You must be hungry." There was a heaping bowl of suttar feni on the table.
That is so incredible, Sajid. That took me down, memory lane there because I recognize all the stores and everything that you talked about. That was incredible, and I think the role our mothers play in our lives, right, and especially in our formative years, it's quite incredible. And so, you showed us the different shades. But I did censure Sajid a little bit on this one, so he was not able to use the cuss word that the child used in the story. But I think you did a good job of describing. So I'm sure most people have guessed what that might have been. Thank you so much. So again, Sajid, great. Obviously you've got some vivid, language there and descriptions in terms of really, getting us the visual of, where we were. And so I'm sure it took a lot of people back to those days. Um, Kavita Krishnamurthy says Sajid brings back nostalgic memories of getting ready to go back to school after the holidays. The description of all the things needed for school is so relatable. And I think we probably all ran into that situation with the compass box, perennially and almost every year. Um, Altaf Sheikh says, leave it to Sajid to take a mundane everyday topic and morph that into an engrossing story. God bless all our M's, mothers. Absolutely. Wow, I'm speechless, says Veena Kumar. Incredible. So good stuff. Sajid, thank you again for that. I know we do have a few more minutes. So since we do, and if somebody is ready, any of you, Mira, Reena, Savi, or Sajid, if you have something, we can probably do one or two other pieces here. Anyone wants to volunteer? Unprepared? Yes,
Okay.
go ahead, Mira. Sajid will come back to you in a second.
Oh, sorry. Is that just, did you want to go?
Mira, you raised your hand first.
Oh,
Would you like
dear.
to speak?
I thought I would pick some haiku because, it's short.
Yeah.
Give me a second to pull it up, please. But really, while I'm pulling this up, just want to say it's been incredible to read with you all. I've enjoyed everything relatable, evocative, and such a treat. Couldn't start it was early to be joining in, but it's just like a treat to wake up to. So thank you. Okay, so this is called Holiday Hijinks. It is also it's a set of 3 haiku. And okay, so although haiku don't typically have titles, I've given these titles because, of the holidays. The first is called Stuffed. Thanksgiving turkey, coma prevents involvement, family drama. Thanksgiving turkey, coma prevents involvement, family drama. The second one is Better Not Cry. Christmas gift exchange, stocking above fireplace, only lumps of coal. Christmas gift exchange, stocking above fireplace, only lumps of coal. So this is kind of like naughty, this is not like a nature-inspired haiku, but yeah. And the last one, Ball Drop. Raising champagne flute, the New Year's resolution already broken. Raising champagne flute, the New Year's resolution already broken. Thank you.
That was so good. Mira, that's incredible. Haikus, I find them so hard to do, and you've become masterful with conveying so much with so much brevity. So that's incredible. Much appreciate that. So, folks, I know we're almost out of time. Sajid, did you have something to share which could take maybe 2 or 3 minutes?
No, go ahead. I'm good.
Okay. All right. Then you know what? I think we're going to call it a wrap. And so I want to thank those of you who were able to join us live and watch this event. I know there will be quite a few others who will watch this the recorded version of this. I had a great time today, and I'm hoping everyone who was on here enjoyed themselves as well. Thank you to these amazing writers and poets and friends of mine for presenting today. And we wish you continued success. Continue to inspire us through your written word. And what I'd also like to urge Savi and Sajid to consider, since they're not California residents, is to take an active role for Yuganugoonj in maybe Seattle and Chicago in the future. And so let's talk about that offline, and maybe y'all can help us bring in poets from your local area as well onto this platform. Okay, great. With that said, thank you once again, everybody. We're going to end the program at this point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Pratish.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.